And it is 7 o'clock.
Okay, best behavior.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is June 27th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock p.m. May we have a roll call?
Sure. Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Mr. Boggs,
Present.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Mr. Goldman, Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have an agenda. I would like to make a couple of requests. May we add on under old business, item E, the RCAP contract. Then, and I need to look up the exact language, but I'd like to ask for an executive session related to pending land negotiations. And I would like to add that, if we wouldn't mind doing it there, between C and existing C and D of item 5, put it there. That's okay with everybody? We can get through most of the business first.
Okay.
Oh, for the executive session?
Yes,
Yep, okay. Looking for motion to approve as amended?
yes, and then does anybody else have anything they'd like to change or add?
Yep, motion to approve as amended.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Let's move on to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody, we always offer this first up to those of us, to those joining us in person. Anyone is welcome to speak for 3 minutes on a matter that to be of town interest, that you perceive of a town interest. Or want to share with us. I'll open it up first to anyone in the room. Would you be interested in making a statement? Okay, well, we have another one of these at the end of the meeting if you change your mind in the interim. Is there anybody online who would like to make a statement? Yes, Roxanne.
Hi, yes, thanks. I just wanted to speak briefly to the agenda item that you have there, the water policy discussion, and
Sorry.
in support of it in the draft that you have in there, and also just to acknowledge that the input that you took, input that was given from me and others regarding reviewing the town's documents and then putting in specifically that you share those with the public before any formation of the district goes forward. I think that's really key to having people understand how things fit in with the larger plans. And just one comment to think about perhaps is that way the
dear.
and then in the next graph about, oh, did something
I'm
happen?
sorry.
Oh, huh.
Yes, the
Sorry.
internet connected out. So one thing to think about, and then we missed what we should think about.
Oh,
No, it's not
well,
your fault.
no, it is my fault that something's wrong with my internet, but I had problems before. Just that the 2 paragraphs there, the first one where it says the board shall review those plans. And then the second one where it says shall also solicit feedback. That's shared with the public in a much more detailed way, like in advance of undertaking initial formation of any potential district. And the first one is just sharing it before the formation. So just maybe making those 2 things parallel, like it's all goes to the public at the same time, so, or relatively the same time. But other than that, I appreciate that you taking the input and also working to make a policy that people have that shows the procedure that you're using and thinking about these things, and including the guidance documents. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else online who wishes to address us? The structure of the meeting. Going once, going twice. Okay. So we have, first off, if I have an extra water policy, so I suspect.
Oh, I don't have one.
So there we go. Thank you. Easy way to figure it out. I wasn't trying to short shift you there. We have we had a number of items on here that I thought might fit in a consent agenda, if we filled in some blanks, before we do that. So I'd like everybody to just pull out their agenda packet, that has all the, you have 3 agenda pages. This is the first of your agenda pages. So the, resolution, under consent agenda, we can fill in some blanks. Town board appreciates Elizabeth Gardner's service to the planning board, and that it accepts Elizabeth Gardner's resignation submitted to the town clerk. And it was on Monday is when is that correct, Carissa? That's when you told me you received it, but
yeah,
okay, so I think that's effective 6/26/23, effective immediately. So that one, those are the fill in the blanks there. The resolution below that would be an appoints Matt Butler, who is currently serving as an alternate to fulfill the balance of the appointment through December 31st, 2025. That's the term that Ms. Gardner was filling out. And then the rest of the items under that consent agenda is, does anybody have any concerns about leaving it? If we want to talk about any of them, we'll just pull them out, and we can pass everything else or vote on everything else. Or are you comfortable with these items? The consent items on the agenda are accepting a planning board member's resignation, an appointment to the planning board, no parking signage during culture camp and grassroots, canceling the August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting, and ending the probation period for a highway employee.
I'm fine with,
I'm good with it.
yeah,
Okay, great. Then I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda
second,
as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, that brings us I printed out one copy of the policy. It was provided online and in the packet, but if you'd like to look at it, this is the policy that a few months ago, starting a few months ago, we talked about the idea of having insurance, accident insurance for participants who participate in our rec programs who may be injured under a no-fault situation. And if they, for their injuries, if they exceed their own insurance threshold, this insurance could step in to provide them additional coverage. At the time, it was felt, and I think understandably, that the policy that was being proposed previously was in the range of about $4,000. And it was the desire of the board to go back and do a little bit more research. And I understand the finance committee did more research. And do you want to share your findings?
Go
Sure,
ahead.
so. I think this is the policy that Blixie has been with. And we got another quote on it for half the price, right?
yeah,
And it's really good, I mean, maybe a few bells and whistles are in there, but the cost benefit ratio. And much better with this particular proposal, so I think we're comfortable with it.
yeah,
Sounds great. And I believe you talked to, if I recall correctly, you made a connection with the Ithaca Youth Bureau also, is that correct? And they,
yeah, I did.
yeah,
And Liz Cloman said they do have a policy and they've used it a handful of times in the 10 years or so that they've had it.
okay.
I had a question though. Is there anything, when somebody signs up for a rec program, do they provide health insurance information?
Yes, they do. Yep.
Okay, and is it clear that their own insurance will be primary in case of? I
I
mean,
don't know if that.
probably
one of the waivers
for signing.
I know, I'm like, well, I signed a bunch of them, but I don't know if that great.
I don't know if there's, I don't know if there's something specific to that, but do we have the policy like this in effect right now?
no,
So then,
we could just check
We could-
into that.
I can check with Will on that.
Because I wouldn't want people using our insurance,
Yeah.
you know, before their own.
Yeah, and if I understand this insurance, I think you have to demonstrate that you've extinguished yours before this kicks in, but I can check on that also. And the other thing is, and I think that Liz, and I appreciate that she caught this, the the track program is not listed under one of the activities covered. Cross-country is, but track isn't. So what I would like to propose is, especially because summer camp will start before, well, it's not just summer camp, but summer camps will start before we're back here next, is I want to make sure that track is added to it. Track doesn't happen again though till next spring. So we can make sure that it's a part of a policy, but it's not, there's not a lack in coverage right now because we're not running a track program. So,
That's fine. Good time.
Yeah.
I'm tracking.
but that's a really good point, about insurance language. I capture that one here.
What's that?
There's too many forms to fill.
Oh, they are, that's the problem, is you just click. Okay, I will double check that. That's a great question, Mary. Thank you. So this policy, will cost us $1,906. And with a premium of $350 was more than, that was twice the cost last time and $500. So for premium. So I appreciate the work the finance committee did to further investigate and find a plan. I think that is probably more suitable for us, more practical for the public. Any other discussion on this? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, and that just a minute. Okay, that brings us to the social media policy, and I apologize to Carissa. Last meeting, we wanted to be able to discuss this last time. But we just ran out of meeting time. So I wanted to prioritize tackling this one tonight. Krista, would you mind, this is for the brainchild. I think it's an excellent idea, but if you wouldn't mind setting us up for it.
Sure, yeah. So the goal of this is just to expand our communications with citizens in a way that is not like a traditional Facebook posting, so not with a dialogue, but just to push out information and redirect people back to our website or email or a phone call, or to stop into the office if they need more information or want to share comments, etc. So that's the idea of this. I think it'll be really handy for things like comprehensive plan and the dog census and all sorts of stuff.
So I had this only on as a discussion, in case there was a lot of discussion. We're not trying to ram policies down anybody's throats. So I thought we could have an opportunity to discuss and see if there are other tweaks. We can come back for another round of revisions. We can approve tonight. It really is the discretion of the board. But this is, I think it's a very reasonable direction to move into, especially since we can effectively use a Facebook page as we would our own webpage, which is not a source for community discussion. It's simply a pushing out of information in a controlled fashion, which is what we effectively do with our website as well.
I think last meeting. Michael, I think he did it. Had suggested adding a communication officer. Was that added?
It was not added. This is the draft as it's presented, but we can certainly add that. Yeah.
I think just eliminated it in the person.
yeah, just like this, in this case, Chris is
Yeah.
the poster, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to put something, it would filter through Carissa
Right.
and then be posted.
I think we could add a simple, the town shall designate a communications officer. I mean, that's a simple statement of
Through which all
typically.
social media communication will be filtered or
Yeah, somehow.
run
yes.
through,
Yeah.
pass through, yeah.
Also, media communications will be approved. Is that approved or?
Well, and also postings, I mean, wouldn't you want to have like one?
You just want to make sure it's all vetted, you know.
Right.
that-
Yeah,
Approved as listed or something like that.
it may make sense at some point for Carissa to be able to designate someone else to do, like, to actually do a posting, for instance, if she's gonna be on vacation, we want to make sure
Yeah.
somebody's alerted.
Yeah, if it's a supervisor or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, in the last paragraph, now. Town officials should assume that if any town business is conducted on a social media account, how could that even be possible?
Well, from a legal standpoint, we had this conversation actually with the attorney. If the three of us on, say, the Trumansburg community, whatever the forums are, I forget, on Facebook. If the three of us started having a conversation, posting there,
Like
That's-
about zoning or something,
yeah,
or the comprehensive plan.
it's the same limitations, and I think rightfully so, exist on social media as they would if we were having a conversation at Gimme Coffee and talking town business, the three of us, that constitutes a quorum. And,
It's a public meeting.
yeah,
You didn't give notice.
well, yes, but you didn't give notice, but it's still, you're not allowed to do it, so
So then this would never happen.
what would ever happen?
I don't see how. Town business can be conducted on a social media account when there's not an agenda, and there's been no publishing of the meeting. How could that ever? Even
Well,
happen?
let's say somebody goes to a comprehensive plan. Steering committee meeting and they hear something they don't like. So on Trumansburg Community. Facebook page, they write about it and you read it. And you're like, well, this is what I think. And then Caitlin reads it and she puts in her 2 cents and then Michael reads it, that would constitute a meeting.
Not if they're done at separate times and separate
Well-
areas.
Well, so this
I
is,
think this is very murky
so,
because I don't see how you could have that isn't town business. That's just a discussion. That's not voted on anything. Right? That town business has to be,
Well, discussion is
Well, that's the same
business.
thing as like Gimme, right? Like,
I agree. I think this is a murky area.
so this has been approved and vetted by the attorney. So he's comfortable with this language. So, I mean, I'm not an expert in this. I'll just tell you that he has reviewed this. He made some tweaks to this section. I honestly don't remember what the tweaks were. They were minor. And Chris, I believe you found this is similar to what's in other municipalities.
Yeah, so this is a policy that I found from a couple other municipalities, and I left this in with a question to Nate, wondering if that's a valid thing that we should keep in there, and he thought it was, but. I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't affect me because I'll never be on social media.
You don't see me.
So I'm okay with.
Either. The town officials are also one of the conversations with seniors with other town elected officials.
I think
social
they're right.
media
It's
account.
similar that if we happen to meet up at coffee shop
Yeah.
or, some mutual gathering, that, oh, Rich, I didn't know you were gonna be here, and we start talking about some hot button issue. That other people hear us, oh, I didn't know Rich and Michael feel this way about this issue.
I don't think they're allowed to do that.
No, we're not, but it can slip.
I get it. That's why it's murky. We shouldn't be putting ourselves in a position where it could be construed that we're having a meeting outside the
Yeah.
bounds of our meetings.
Right.
And if it slips into that, we shouldn't let it slip into that. I mean, am I,
No, I don't
That's
disagree.
exactly what it's saying.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't think that's what it's saying. I think it's saying,
That's the intention, is that you can't, outside of like a public. When you've posted your meeting and invited the public, that's the only time you can, 3 or more people, a quorum can talk about town business.
right,
And social media has been designated as a public forum in some cases. So you can't be in a public.
but
forum.
I still not, should assume that if any town business is conducted on a social media account. I don't understand how that could happen. Town communication maybe, but not business.
So you're thinking it's not strong enough.
I think business is voting is the agenda and voting on resolutions. I don't think you would ever do business. I don't see how you would ever do business in the social media account, maybe on both days.
I don't know what you're,
You could have a discussion though,
right, so maybe it's just the town businesses.
You see what I'm saying? You
business
distinguish
or discussion.
Town business has a certain depth to it, there's a certain gravitas to it, as
Well,
opposed to communication.
Yeah, we have an outlook, but there's other places that fall into the trap.
Right, and
That,
it could, you can give the appearance if you're communicating that way or communicating a gimme that you've made a decision, even if you've taken no official action. That you've made a decision. Mary and Michael and I are like, oh my gosh, can you believe this happened? I think we should do this. I agree. Let's do this. Let's do this. The three of us now constituting a quorum have chosen a direction outside of public scrutiny and except for very specific things that can happen in executive session, we're not supposed to do that. So do you think that, so let me ask this, do you think the general intent behind this is accurate and we want to send it back for further, wordsmithing? Or is the intent missing the mark and we need to, come up with something that better hits our intent with this? Like, what would our intent be if it doesn't need to just be wordsmith?
Certainly, the account will be considered a public record if three people are talking about it. I just don't think, I think we should have a policy that in no circumstances does any town business occur on a social media account. Because Michael and I don't look at our social media. accounts.
right,
So it's a slippery slope here. Of not including the whole board in a discussion prior to voting on
Well,
it.
maybe I don't like your opinion, Rich, and that's why the three of us didn't invite you. I'm joking. But I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So no town business shall be discussed on a social media account or discussed among members on a social media account.
Results of town business can be discussed. Like if we take a vote and then there's a discussion about it. or
I don't know.
We don't even
Well,
want
that's,
discussion.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Right,
we're
this
just,
is-
earlier in this policy, we're kind of putting the kibosh on discussing and
Right,
looking for public comment or
and
anything.
each
like that.
kind of cuts down on, like, it's very specific about what is not gonna be allowed.
But I can see this being interpreted that three of us meet the beginning, we have a discussion. Informally, we agree on something and it's considered a resolution, it's considered town business, town law, which is, I don't want to give anyone the impression. that
Exactly.
We could do that,
and we're pretty good about that.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's for future.
I don't go to
meetings.
Gimme, so.
Kind of a
Bike
male-
ride or
Kind of a
something.
male
maybe, right?
dominated,
Yeah.
kind of a male dominated experience.
Yeah.
Well, the meeting went off the
He's in
rails
training.
Okay, so I think that this is, so what I'm hearing, I hear what you're saying. I think we need to take it back. And I think I'll have a talk with the town attorney. The reason is we can't limit what somebody's like, somebody can write, like, we can't limit a town board member from posting on social media about their thoughts on anything.
Sure.
I think the difference is, because that would be a first one, but what we're saying is we don't want discussion. So is correct?
Yeah,
Okay, so no town business shall be discussed on a social media account between members of the board?
two can, but not three.
All right, say discuss. I wouldn't discuss it, period.
Yeah,
It's
I,
not a forum.
yeah, it's not.
I think it starts going,
No, there's a caveat there because when you have, I mean, if you're posting from an official account, and you're talking to a citizen, that's a town record. So if
It's a
you get
town record,
emails
yeah.
from.
But I
citizens,
can't
that's-
communicate back, we can't. So I thought this is a one-way street, we're giving to the public, so the public
Yeah.
can't email back. Right? They could do it
Yeah,
on
this
their
is
own
just
account,
another-
they could do me on the town Ulysses account.
So Carissa, is this pertaining to, like, so this would pertain not to the town's website or the town's Facebook page, this would pertain to the non-official.
Like your
Correct,
personal
correct.
account.
Correct? Okay,
The social media policy that applies to not the town social media. account, but I guess town board members.
So like if we-
Not
had something like I posted or something like we're talking about on the Trumansburg Community and Happenings page, and then 3 of us start talking, that's what we can't do.
Right. I mean, I don't think,
Without falling into this.
well, I think it's really important for town board members, and I think I don't think we're the audience, because again, we don't talk on that, on those
But there
forums.
could be something to be
But there
others.
will be in the future, but I think it's important people realize that the laws that limit us in public to not forming a quorum also limit us online to not. So the draft I have, and again, I think it needs to go back, I would not recommend adopting this tonight. No town business shall be discussed on a social media account between more than 2 town board members. That does not constitute a quorum.
But we can't have a discussion because it's only going one way out. So what kind of?
Oh, no, this is.
This would be on your personal
Your
page.
personal-
Yeah, so if you had the Facebook page that you don't write on and my Facebook page that I don't write on, if we had a conversation. I mean, because we're allowed to talk on the phone and things like
Right,
that.
right, that's-
We can talk to each other on social media also,
Yeah, Sure.
but we just can't invite Liz to join us.
That's
Sorry, Liz.
right. You could have.
I don't post
your phone.
We-
So
We're not supposed to.
I'm just wondering if, there's the social media policy and there's kind of, section 1 that applies to the town's official pages. And there's a section 2 that applies to town staff pages. Or, you know what I mean?
Are you suggesting that? Or are you saying that's,
I'm wondering if we should break it out.
Further clarify
To,
Okay.
that there are differences that might apply to.
Town staff
One
would
person.
have
So you think
social
that,
media
like,
pages?
say,
No, but-
one of our departments might
So
put out a publication, put out a,
well, I'm just trying to differentiate between like the official page of the town versus like town supervisor page or something that might happen in the future. Not that Caitlin doesn't want to do, but
nothing.
so this, I think.
I
that
think
bottom
the thing
section
with the
applies
2
more to-
works. That's clear.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that exempts us from taking any action. Or perceived action through social media.
And I think that does not prohibit. We'll share the board. This is still a public meeting, so. It's just. Yeah, it looks like we're not muted anymore. Welcome back to this regularly scheduled program that was interrupted by technology, which seems to be the nature today. We are, the town board has only been discussing the social media draft policy. as, I'm sure will be reflected in the minutes, the two items, that we have, modified in section L, or 3 sections L, is we're gonna be saying something along the lines of town officials should assume that any town-related communication conducted on a social media account, even a personal or non-official account, will be considered a public record and will be subject to the New York State Freedom of Information Law, FOIL, as well as applicable sections of the record retention schedule. The rest of that section we're going to keep, but that's how we're tweaking it that way. And then additionally, no town business shall be discussed on a social media account between more than 2 town board members. It's going to be added some version of that. Again, not passing this tonight. It's going to go back for legal review. And then what to Michael's point about a communications officer, this is what I took a stab at just now. The town shall designate a communications officer. The town board shall. All social media communications will be approved by the communications officer. The communication officer will manage the posting or designate another staff member to post on their behalf.
Seems like a lot of work. You designate one person to manage the release of all the social media.
We don't have that much.
Conversation.
do we?
I don't.
I'm just saying, of all the conversations, it's gonna go through.
No, there's no conversations. This is just the webpage for the town,
Right.
the Facebook page. So if the town's like, hey, just a reminder, we've got a comprehensive plan meeting on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. That posting will be handled by the communications manager. Should be Carissa. It should definitely be Carissa, based on my not posting. So, as long as Chris is willing,
Yes.
but she can designate another, and that's why I added the designate another staff member. So if, so her deputy could post, or I can post if she needs to. I don't want to, but I will if you need me. So that would be, does Carissa, does that section make sense, or is there anything else you'd like tweaked in that? I mean, we can come back, we'll bring this another draft, but
Yeah.
is there anything for this discussion?
I think that's fine.
Okay. Excellent. Any other thoughts on this draft policy? Plan to bring it back for the next meeting. Okay, well, if something strikes you, feel free to send us a message. We can come back, so I guess we can move on to our water policy discussion. All the changes from 2 meetings ago are in red.
I had a question about one of the first sentence in red.
Sure,
The name of the property owner and contact, if appropriate, tax parcel number and contact information for each other will be provided. Does others really mean owner?
yes, thank you.
I read that and I was like, what do they mean? And I was trying to like imagine that in my head.
No, thank you. I appreciate
So,
that. It's owner, yep,
So each owner will be corrected.
yeah.
yeah,
Because what we really don't want to do is spend time trying, because some parcels are, undeveloped, so it's not like you just go knock on somebody's door. But yes, that was supposed to be owner. Thank you very much for catching that. I've read this several times and never noticed it. There was the recommendation in the public comment period that we kind of parallel the sharing of information to the public, our review of that information before I would say we might want to the review and findings. So this is paragraph. Well, it's the second one that has red in it. It says the review and findings by the town board shall be shared with the public before the first vote on the formation of the district.
Hmm.
Because it's a 2-vote process.
That last paragraph of David is if an effort, shouldn't that be in an effort?
Yep. Absolutely. So we could say to, um, so not the very last paragraph on the first page, but the one above it, just the sentence before any exploratory costs. We could say, a public hearing for the purposes of gathering public feedback will also be held before the town board undertakes the first vote. So we're using matching language. First vote on the formation. Because it is the initial, but I think that makes it just very clear when in the process it's happening.
Then will we get, keep the initial in the next sentence?
I'm sorry, oh, at least let's go back to the first vote, to the first, I mean. It's better to be precise than creative. I know there was a lot of discussion and back and forth with the public at the last meeting. I think it's actually really critical for the town board to think about the willingness of the property owners to pay in some general range. I understand that it's difficult to have, be able to say precisely how much you'd be willing to pay, but I think that it's important to know if there's a huge disconnect between somebody that we will have property owners who are willing to pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year for water because you have a commercial property, if there's need, like you have the revenue for it. That might not be the case for a resident who lives, in the same area. For them, they're getting by on a well at $1,000 a year. That's a more palatable amount for them. They may not be able to do 5,000. I think that, I don't think it should be the sole determinant of whether or not we trigger a district. But I think because of how the state water law works, it doesn't take a lot for a permissive referendum to be triggered. And we wouldn't want to put a lot of town effort and money and general taxpayer money into something that was ultimately going to fail because the property owners, enough property owners don't want it. So I think being transparent about, to the best of our ability, how much about something is going to cost and their willingness to pay for something. I think that's how that good communication happens.
Doesn't a resident in a water district who does not elect to connect to it, don't they pay the
They pay debt
capital
service.
costs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they pay debt service on it. And we have,
even if they don't have water.
even if they don't have water.
Doesn't
So that's a consideration if, I mean,
It's like a lot of money being spent for.
benefit, yeah.
Doesn't seem fair.
But, well, the reason is,
Well,
But they have to.
so,
They're
and
gonna
that's,
be piggy pocket.
and your property value is increased as a result that you have the ability to connect to public water. Their property value, there's a benefit, there's a benefit that they may not be triggering, but that's why it comes down to more than 50% of the assessed value of the land, or the total land, sorry, not assessed value. That's the reason the state has created equations to determine what a vote constitutes, is because we live in a democracy and some people are unhappy with the outcome of votes. So it's the same true with the water district. You have to have a majority. But yeah, there will be there are still neighbors who, right, Carissa, there's a number of properties still in Jacksonville who were not connected, and they're coming up on 30 years.
Debt service and operation. and maintenance.
yeah.
It's not just water, it's special districts.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it can be lighting districts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sidewalks, it covers the whole.
And also, it might be a situation that you own a vacant property in that area. And so of course you wouldn't tap into it because you don't have a building there. So you're gonna pay the debt service and operations and maintenance. But at some point in the future, if you decide to build, you're gonna be able to connect. So we don't create the water law, so. But we can set some parameters on how we.
Is that charged based on the size of the lot or the number of, it's just one flat rate for everybody that owns a parcel
I
in the district?
have gotten in trouble when I've spoken out of my
Oh.
knowledge, but I'm pretty sure it's a flat amount per hookup, correct? Per parcel?
We do assess the units that everyone will pay, and it's based on we go by the Tompkins County Assessment Property Code. So if you're a two-family household, you pay for 2 units, you know.
Hmm.
If you're
Yeah, we
a
just
commercial
reviewed that
business, you might pay
2 years
by
ago.
the amount that you use. But I don't think that vacant units are charged. Vacant
Mm.
properties.
They are, because remember that corner one that they were. The one in Jacksonville where the old general store that got torn down, that property is paying debt service on it.
Mhm. Yeah, every parcel in District 3 is.
Hmm.
And then we did a unit review because I think the farm down the road, we adjusted a few of them.
Okay.
All right,
So this, formation of water district could have pretty wide ranging consequences beyond just the people that want the water.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and New York really does put a lot of power in the hands of the property owners to say yay or nay, and if you have, it can pull somebody along who doesn't want to. And it can also, can provide water if there's a majority, does provide if they're willing to pay, so.
So clarification, vacant properties when there is no tap into the water main do not get charged.
Oh, okay.
But that property does have a tap into the main, because there had been a place there, a building there, but now it's no longer conforming as a lot, so.
But they still pay.
well, shouldn't once there's no lot be there, not have to pay?
But there was a building there during, I imagine it was there when.
It was turned down, what, 5
The
years
district
ago?
was created 30 some
Right.
years ago, so it's locked into the debt service.
Probably,
Can't get out of the debt service.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think we can take that up in another conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll solve it here, I can guarantee you I can't.
Okay,
So. With those changes.
Would you like me to bring back a clean copy for the next meeting? So, because I mean, this is, I'm not trying to like torment you by the water policy every meeting, but it is important, and I think it's gonna have long-ranging impact.
But this essentially mirrors what the municipal law is.
Oh, it
Special
does,
district formation.
right,
So this is nothing,
we're not
You-
creating law.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not creating anything new per se. We're
Right.
just.
Yeah.
Here's a clean document that we can hand out to the people. that are interested.
Exactly, and here's a process, because
Yeah.
people reach out and it's like, it's complicated to tell, well, you need to go first hire a
Go here,
municipal
go here, go
attorney.
here, yeah.
Yeah, and like, and so this
Right.
was trying to streamline the process, and to that point, we can always tweak this as we go, if we discover that we screwed up on a word or a
why don't you
phrase.
bring back clean copy?
Okay, so I can do that for the next meeting?
Sure.
Sure, you got it. Okay,
Close,
we're so close,
very close.
we're so close. That's okay, I would rather get it right.
And then we have to have a public hearing on it.
Nope, no policy we
It's a
don't.
Policy, so we.
It's the policy, we don't, yeah, it's not changing the law, it's
Okay.
just saying. I mean, we could have a policy, if we want to do a public hearing, I'm perfectly happy doing
Pretty
one.
much had one last week. Last meeting. No, I think it's good. That's good to get them, not in the public, so if there's. Questions or concerns, we can direct them to something.
Absolutely. Okay. So do you want, the next up would be the executive session, but are you comfortable, popping the, RCAP contract up so we can talk about that? So we're just checking along with good business, like. So I did not provide a new copy of it, but I am, grateful that, Michael, attended the, Water Source Protection Committee. Did I say that correctly?
Water source protection plan.
Thank you. It was with water and not the source water and. Anyway, attended yesterday and it's my understanding from you that they're okay with the contract.
Yes, so
Okay.
the contract basically is good. There are a few questions
Okay.
and part of it has to do with the survey,
Mhm.
not with the contract. And then the next request would be if we could somehow, I believe it's you, Michelle and Niels.
Mhm.
Or I'll call it internal.
Yep,
So if somehow we can come up with a time that
absolutely.
internal folks can meet with the committee folks.
Sounds great.
And there's several questions in here. It'll just be easier.
Oh,
So that we're
absolutely.
not coming up with ours and then you and then back and forth.
Oh, I can tell you that internally, we've not had another meeting about it,
Right,
so.
right,
The committee's the only one moving forward.
Yeah, so
Does
between Linda and Roxanne, does that summarize what we covered last night?
Yes, Michael, I think good, except, okay, so you're not going to pass the resolution today?
Well,
Is that what
it
you're
sounded like from
suggesting?
last night that the contract was okay, but
Yeah, the
Well,
contract's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
we just wanted to
it's-
have more specificity around the resolution about how, the ongoing operation procedures.
right.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought if we had a meeting with
Okay,
three internal to a couple of us external.
Yeah.
That would be cleaner to discuss that.
right, and that's fine with me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Roxanne?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I think that the committee just wanted to be, primarily engaged on the details of the actual survey discussion and, so that's what the committee felt the strongest, excuse me, about. And, I guess if that's the way to do it that Michael's suggesting, that's fine, as long as we can kind of get to a place where we can all work efficiently together on this. That was the desire.
Right, and then I think we were talking about like August sometime. Does that sound right?
I think that's, yeah, getting ready to distribute. I think that's what I had heard
Okay, yeah, because
from the committee.
I was
so-
trying to draw like a clean line between, the contract's fine, let's move it forward. And then if we can meet and then meet our, say, August deadline to try to get the survey
Yeah.
out or get it close to moving out.
Right, and I think that's the
There's-
timeline reflected in the contract also.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay,
Yep.
I just want to make sure that I summarized that correctly.
Okay,
Good.
right,
And
yeah.
so-
that's what I
and-
think.
I did not have a chance to get, so I'm gonna read the resolution, just so everybody, so you both can hear it. This got put together very last minute because I
Yeah.
wanted to be responsive and get it done tonight, if we could. So I'm gonna read it, because I do have some designations for contacts that I'm proposing in this, and if we can amend it if you don't like how I phrase it. So whereas RCAP Solutions is a publicly funded organization that provides services to rural communities, and whereas RCAP Solutions is well suited to provide survey support for the town and the Water Source Protection Committee, and whereas Ulysses Town Board is appreciative of the volunteer expertise of the members of the Water Source Protection Committee, and whereas the provision of these services is at no cost to the town and will result in a survey process. Yes, it's just, this is why reading things aloud is a good idea. Will result in a survey process with the professional management of data and the delivery of data in useful ways to the town. Hereby saving the town significant staff time. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ulysses Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the contract with RCAP Solutions for survey services scheduled between June and November 2023, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor and the chair of the Water Source Protection Committee or their designees will serve as contacts for RCAP Solutions for the duration of the contract, and further resolved that the Ulysses Town Board directs the town clerk to provide the signed copy to RCAP Solutions. So that way, I know that the committee may have someone in mind to be the contact, but Linda, then you can just designate, it can either you or someone else designate.
Yeah, we have been talking about Michael even playing that role, but I think either one works. But the main thing is that we're accountable for the deliverable, which is the survey. Yeah, and that's the intent. So
Yeah.
that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody on the town board have any thoughts or alterations?
Does that deserve a second?
It does deserve a second. It needs
Second.
one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Where's it? Here's how I made those two. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a short fuse.
Oh.
The 11th hour here.
Oh, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
appreciate
'cause
it.
we met last night.
I
so
know,
it's
yeah,
like,
'cause the time
I
is
was like,
like,
oh my God, my list today. I gotta get the kids in.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We can move efficiently, we can,
Yeah.
even though we're government, we're slow.
Thank you.
We are.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Excellent. So, with that, that brings us to executive session. Is there, someone willing to make a motion to go into executive session? Is there a second?
Second.
And we're going into this executive session for the purposes of, potential, land, negotiation, purchase, acquisition. There's an official way to say that, but that's what it is. We've done it before. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are good. I know it's cold in here.
Yes.
Cold. Okay, we have been in executive session. The town board has taken no action. And we are returning now. Is there a motion to close, executive session?
So moved.
Or a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to land acquisition update and a resolution that was, a couple of versions were posted. Most recently, the most recent version, that we'll be looking at tonight, is posted currently on the town's website. For this meeting, since last year, the town board has been discussing, both in town board meetings, and directly with Trumansburg Community Recreation about the need for recreational, expanding recreational opportunities in the town. This was something that was also called out in the 2009 comprehensive plan. Back earlier this spring in March, the town put a purchase offer in for 13 acres for $129,000 for land that was available on the market at the general intersection of Trumansburg Road, Route 96 and Perry City. Our offer was not accepted, but that offer came in at approximately $9,923 per acre. There were deed limitations that restricted development of that property. We didn't think it would be a hindrance to the town because of what we were potentially using it for, but it did have limitations. Our purchase offer was not accepted, and we continued to communicate with Trumansburg Community Recreation. They continue to be looking for land, at which point in that process, after we failed to get that property, I was approached by a property owner and with interest in potentially selling land, with the intention that if the town was interested, they would be interested in selling to the town for public use, but would otherwise be selling the land, would be considering selling the land on the open market, but would prefer to sell for public use. So the land, the resolution before the town board today is for the property of 2141 Craft Road. And this resolution authorizes us to submit a purchase offer and proceed with an acquisition. The town has undertaken an appraisal of the property because we are bound to if we purchase, we need to have it be at a fair value, and it was appraised at $9,000 an acre.
So it's,
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. It's 7,000 an acre. Thank you, town board members. Yes, it is 7,000 an acre. It's a better deal. The other one was like I said, was 99.23 per acre. This one is 7,000 per acre. With Trumansburg Community Rec, their original intention original hope had been to acquire 30 acres. at 30 acres at 7,000 an acre is $210,000. Notwithstanding additional costs associated with closing and fees and associated costs. The town does have unallocated funds through the American Recovery Plan. Does have an excess of funds in excess of $210,000. This resolution is identifying $210,000 for use of the American Recovery Plan funds. We have a dedicated reserve fund of $8,500 that was established to support efforts by Trumansburg Community Rec. And we are suggesting in this resolution that it would be, we could use those funds to pay closing costs and other fees associated with it. So if we are to undertake this, first off, before we talk about doing the short environmental assessment review that we would need to do per New York State law, does anybody want to say anything or discuss any further about what I've clarified at this point?
That's fine.
Okay. So what we everybody has should have in their packets. A short environmental assessment form, part 1 was completed by our planner for the board and the public. The State Environmental Quality Review Act requires us to make environmental assessments when we take specific kinds of action. The only action being associated with this is the actual purchase. Any further alterations to the land would obviously, in addition to going before our planning board, would also trigger environmental review. So this is simply for an environmental review of acquiring the land without taking any, we don't have any specific designs or plans that we're considering for the land at this juncture. We are simply purchasing it. So Niels has our town planner and zoning officer has completed the first part of the review and is seeing no adverse impacts. So it's our job tonight to review that and give you time to do that. But we're also looking specifically at part 2 of the short environmental assessment form. So will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? We are just buying at this juncture. We are not committing to development in any specific form or use. So it's when I spoke with Niels about this, he agreed that he thought that was a no. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Okay. Will the proposed action of purchasing change the use or intensity of use of the land? It shall continue to be farmland. We have not doing anything else to it. So it's no. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Again, this is all related to just the acquisition.
We have to do this again.
We will have to do this again. Absolutely. Yep. No, this is just for the acquisition. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of the critical environmental area?
No.
Nope. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in an existing level of traffic or affected existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact public or private water supplies? Nope.
No.
Or public or private wastewater treatment utilities, none of which are there. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Nope.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Nope. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, drainage problems? No. And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay. So this resolution will authorize me to sign a purchase contract for up to 30 acres on the property on commercially reasonable terms and conditions at a price of $7,000 an acre at a maximum expense of the town of $210,000, not including appraisals, title search, abstract survey, and other regular closing costs and fees to be paid for through the Town of Ulysses American Recovery Plan Act allocation and use of up to $8,500 of the aforementioned reserve fund. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into agreements pending legal review and approval as to form for the acquisition of services related to regular real estate transactions, including a survey and abstract title search, legal fees, and any other standard real property closing costs and fees. And be it further resolved that the town board, after consultation with community stakeholders and further discussion, clarification and identification of specific park and recreation opportunities, as well as any other town needs, will then make final decisions regarding the extent of park and recreation use of the property. And be it further resolved that this resolution is subject to permissive referendum. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to undertake any public notification as required by law and provide a certified copy of the resolution to the town attorney.
Okay.
Any further discussion? You can take me home and I'll read to you. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. I think this is a very, very important day for Ulysses. We haven't obviously signed on it, but it's very, very exciting. So
Yeah.
thank you. Good. Okay, we've already done the RCAP contract. So that brings us to Department of Public Works discussion, just for the public. This
First thing.
No, we didn't.
we voted all of it
We
once.
voted them all
Yeah.
at once?
We did.
Yeah,
Okay.
consent
All right.
agenda.
And you said yes. So for the, at our last town board meeting, Highway Superintendent Scott Stewart, was with us, giving us a mid-year update on what's happening in the highway department and their activities. And in that meeting, he introduced to the board the concept of moving in the direction of forming a Department of Public Works. The rationale being it would help right size the work the highway department is doing with a proper title and proper designations, because the highway department actually undertakes a broader range of work for the town than just simply working on a highway. Excuse me. So I wanted to bring that to the board for discussion. It's effectively, it would be an administrative change for the town as more than anything else. We've checked with the comptroller's office and there would be no line item changes. I mean, it would actually, for our bookkeeper, everything will run the way it's been running. For an accounting purposes, it runs the way it's been working, doesn't change any of that. So, which frankly, I was surprised to hear that it was that simple. Usually you hear from the comptroller that things are gonna get more complicated. Staying the same is probably quite easy. And then the highway department, we would continue to have a highway superintendent. We would need to pass a local law establishing the Department of Public Works. And as part of the local law, we would effectively create the position of Director of Public Works. And then that we would designate in that local law that the highway superintendent serves as a Director of Public Works to kind of formally codify that. So in the future, if someone runs for highway superintendent, they understand that they're running in the town of Ulysses, the highway superintendent serves as Director of Public Works as well. So I wanted to bring, get feedback from the town board about their thoughts on if that seemed like a reasonable direction. But I also wanted to tell you that the highway superintendent reached out to me to let me know that he has had conversations with his staff, and his staff is in support of this change. And so if the town board is in support of it, one of the next directions we go is actually engaging the union. Because our highway department is in a union, we would engage formally with the union, but in just, in more relaxed communications, it was positively received that the town board is considering this. So yeah, just wanted to throw it out to the town board and see if you guys had any thoughts on the
So it
matter.
is a whole apartment thing, not just a subset.
Yeah.
And when is our contract up with them?
At the end of next year.
Okay, so we have time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we, so what we could, assuming everybody's amenable, we actually amended our contract last year, at the end of last year, to change health benefits. And it was be as simple at this juncture, we're perceiving it would probably be just a simple name change in the contract as opposed to any substantive changes.
There'd be any administrative?
Nope.
Anything additional? Okay.
Pay would stay the same,
Pay-
benefits stay the same, hours stay the same, it's really.
Work would
just-
stay the same, because actually it's already specified in there that we have water operators as part of the union. And if the union chose to, accept first off, we can make the changes. The town retains the right to control administrative issues, so we can undertake this with or without the union backing. I think we tend to like working collaboratively with both our union, but with our employees. And so I would like to engage them in that conversation, if the town board's amenable to the change. And then if they do opt to move to a DPW model, anyone hired then under the DPW is automatically going to become assumed into the union. And I would assume the unions tend to like that. So
So change our logo.
we might need to change. I don't know if it changed. That's a great question.
On the trucks.
On the trucks, yeah, that'll be an unintended.
Oh, yeah.
New shirts.
Right.
I am
A
a,
rolling process.
it would be a rolling process. I am a believer in continuing
Think
to,
this through, Kate.
yes,
Think
exactly. I'll get.
through. Sweatshirts.
But it's, as we rotate things out, I think we should probably end up changing the name.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're still gonna have an elected highway
Yes.
superintendent?
Yes.
That title will not change.
That title will not change. So Scott or any of his successors would be highway superintendent and director of public works.
And the job description would be the public works plan.
Because it's gonna be codified. And if we do this, it'll be codified in local law that those are
Mhm.
bound.
So anybody who would want to run in the
Has to
future
know.
has to know the water side too,
Right,
and the highway.
well.
Well, they don't have to. They can supervise it.
but
yeah.
job is
Yeah.
to Make sure it happens.
Yeah. So the
But
public
that is
should
included.
think
They
about
can't
that.
separate it
Right.
later.
Yeah, they would still be,
Any elected official doesn't have to do anything,
nope.
so cross that bridge. when-
Including us, so, yeah. But Rich, I was mentioning that the employees are amenable to having conversations, so we could, as another union representative, we could, and if the board is amenable to proceeding, we could, with conversation, Rich and I can engage the union formally in that matter. We would have a draft. I have a draft. Our attorney has provided a draft local law, but I want to see how everybody's feeling. I can share it with you, share it with the public. And then I would anticipate talking about this at our next two meetings, touching on it to see if any thoughts have come up, changes. And then we could do a public hearing in August.
Mhm.
And choose to take action in August, or if you wanted to wait till September. It's not really gonna have budgetary implications in any sizable way for next year that we're anticipating. And we can adopt it when we're ready to adopt it with an effective date of January 1st. So we have some leeway. Great.
I don't see any negatives. So.
Great.
Yes.
Well, then be prepared to see it again on the agenda back with our water policy. Both will come back next meeting.
Okay,
Okay, we have, Krista, was, posted and sent the minutes. Did anybody need any changes to those minutes?
No.
Good to me.
Wonderful.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. You gotta wake up earlier, Liz. These two are just on top of this today. There are no, you were at baseball all weekend, so you have a pretty good excuse. There are no board notifications. There are no budget modifications. There are no payments of audited claims. I mean, Carl's all those off. I leave those on except for the audit claims alert, which shouldn't have been on there. I apologize.
So we're up next, right?
Well, I'm doing July because you did February for me.
Okay,
So you're off the hook for one more month.
He does it anyway. He does
You
it
want-
all.
Do you want to do them? In July?
yeah, you can do them. If I have time, I like to come in and look at them.
Okay,
So
well, I'll
it's
do
fine.
them.
Yeah.
I'll be around, so
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
you always leave those out the first meeting, right? That's-
first meeting of the
Yes.
month.
Yes.
I won't be here early.
Wonderful.
That's right. Changing the guards here.
Sure is.
Okay,
So that brings us back to privilege of the floor. Is there anyone in the public? There's no one in person. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Yes, Roxanne.
Thanks. So Linda and I were chatting while you guys were chatting, and since the the RCAP Solutions contract is done and all now, we'd like to get we want to work with the group that needs to be worked with, the town staff, Becky from RCAP, and the draft that our committee now has from our last meeting, which was just last night, on the survey, just to try to get something, taking into account the input we got from our last meeting with you and everyone on the town staff, and trying to get to something final to bring to the board for approval, consideration for approval, and also to work on a plan for the distribution so we'll arrange those meetings with everybody through July. But we were thinking that we'd like to be on the town board meeting for August with this, August 8th, because the August 22nd meeting is canceled. And then, as was mentioned earlier, we're hoping to try to, release the survey and perhaps have, a public information sort of meeting about the project, and just introducing that at the same time for early September when everybody's back. So and there'll be some work to do once we have the okay from the board on what we'd be doing. So if we could be on that August 8th agenda, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love early additions to the agenda. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Linda.
Yes, sorry. I had a reaction to the water district expansion policy that I'd just like to register presence on. I'm concerned about the 75% owner category. I understand that you're just using the policy to make it simpler to explain to folks how a decision could be made, how you'll work through the decision to expand a water district or not. And that's important. But I think it could very easily be taken out of context. And I'm concerned that the 75% property owner could have a negative effect on farming or larger landowners where there's a potential for farming, because the balance of property owner versus, acreage, and who's trying to farm it and who's just wants to build houses and put water there is a whole different situation. So I don't know how you want, what's the best way to change that to make your life simple, or easily explainable to folks. But I think you need to take it in consideration, because I think there could be, once it becomes public, if it becomes public in any kind of broad way, it could be misinterpreted by the intent. And I know, and in talking to folks, I understand that there's other rules that actually guide the decision at the end of the day, but still, that's the optics that you're going to get, that the town board will be hit with, and those of us that are trying to work on water in the
Linda,
area.
what do you propose as a
I don't have a suggestion. I think it has to be tied more to acreage than just property owners, some kind of balance. And I was in the last meeting where you talked about it, and it didn't hit me the same way it's hitting, it struck me this time because of the clarity when you cleaned up the policy.
I would say that I can certainly I can talk to our attorney about it. The 75% he thought was a reasonable number based on you want to have enough preponderance of participants that you're not going down a path of, potentially starting a district and spending money and then failing in a public referendum. That 75% was a pretty safe number.
Right.
But
Well,
so that's where that came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but that's, if you look at, I mean, I can think of examples around where I live where you can have one property owner and a bundle of 3 houses at one end of the road. And they're going to drive the whole situation for a larger landowner who's just really desperately trying to keep it in farming and can't because, one more tax on the land that he
Right.
didn't.
Right. It would go though to this only starts the process. The landowners will all get to vote on it, whether or not it's actually formed.
Right,
They'll
I
get to
understand that.
participate in that process. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's going to be harder to get that message through. You know what I mean? That's my whole point. And I'm not, I'm advocating and I appreciate your efforts to try to make it simple because it's an incredibly complicated decision process. And to try to simplify it so people understand it and know what they're working with is really important. But then we have, a large segment of our population that we're trying to encourage and, keep working in the organization. It doesn't pay to, make that tough either.
Okay. Thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate that.
I know. Thanks.
No, I'm gonna, we can explore the idea of acreage versus number of property owners. We can certainly look into that.
Then excuse it to the one big property
Yep.
owner,
Yep, I got it. I get
which
it.
I'm not, which I don't think is fair.
Nope, I get it. Yeah, it's a balancing act. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, well, we
Yeah.
will look into it. Thank you for that perspective. It's good to get multiple perspectives. So I appreciate that. Okay. Well, there's no further,
Oh, you got one more person.
Roxanne, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, it's just me again for a minute, and I think that this is the thing that I always say, but it kind of reiterates what Rebecca Schneider brought up before too, which is, and what Linda's saying, ag and markets doesn't support developing water districts in places where there's, really active agricultural land, and so it just goes to our whole town planning process and the importance of incorporating that into it, where we choose to have agriculture, the Ag and Farmland Protection Plan, every aspect of it. And so that's why, again, I appreciate you, making sure to include those reviews as part of this whole process, but it's complicated with water districts and ag land. Anyway,
It is.
thanks.
Thank you.
Right.
Yep, we're trying to balance a lot of needs in a fair way. Okay,
Move to adjourn.
Second.